So there's a little boy that he's in a store with his mom, and he walks over to a cashier's phone, and he asks if he could use it, and he calls, and a woman answers on the other end, and he says, "Ma'am, I just want to know if I could come and cut your grass. This is what I do." And she said, "Oh, no problem, not interested." He said, "But I'll do extra stuff. I'll do a lot of extra stuff, and I won't even charge you extra." And she goes, "Well, I'm pretty happy with, I'm happy with what I have. I'm not interested." And so he hangs up the phone, and the cashier says, "You have so much positiveness about you that, I'd really like to hire you and offer you a job." And he says, "Well, I'm not looking for a job." She said, "Well, you were pleading somebody to give you a job." He said, "Oh, no, that's the woman that I already work for. I do her grass, and I was just making sure she's happy with what I'm doing." So this 7-week program, whether you're here one time or all 7 times, it's designed so that we can check in and see how we're doing. There is one thing that I've learned in my own life is often you may be caught surprised by something that happens in your life. How many of you lately have been caught by surprise by something that happens in your life, good, bad, or indifferent? More often than not, it is the subconscious mind that is operating as you while you are sleeping. And so when we want to really work with these ideas, yes, we are energized. I really feel that people are healed while they're seated here. There's a vibratory change that is happening. There's an energy uplift. There's a spiritual download and all of that. But underneath, we do certain focus programs so that we can get deeper into the realm of our subconscious mind to see what some of our influences are that still have a hold of us. So if you're in a place where you're saying, this is happening in my life right now, and I don't really understand it, it's like from your mind, you won't be able to. You need to go deeper into your heart and your emotional body. Right? And so there's that space. In the book, which again we are talking about, we are speaking about God is not Christian, Jew, Hindu, or Muslim, meaning God is not anything that in boxes people have put God in. Those are all human-made. Those are all human-made ideals and ways to keep people held in bondage. As some people don't even realize that many chapters intended for the Bible were left out on purpose. And so it's that kind of reality that we want to be aware of what we're working with, because at the end of the day, it is always the story we tell ourselves. Okay? And so that being said, it's very interesting because when you think about the idea of spirituality, it ought to be a gathering where people can recover and release any form of addiction in their lives, even if it is an ongoing, "I'm not worthy. I don't matter enough. It's not happening to me, but it's happening to them." An addiction is anything that takes over you within an hour's period, and you don't know how it got there. Trust me, it's not just for the few elite of the obvious ones. It's for all of us that get taken over sometime. And that's the whole idea of spiritual community, is that really you can om and be quiet and meditate at home, but you come here so you can have an energetic presence and an energy that comes through you and as you, so that you can remember at a greater level that I've just begun and I'm only getting started, and look out and here I am, and I have permission to be me. And that root of feeling free. I am free. Say that with me. I'm going deeper in my freedom. Because what matters is freedom. And see, that's why religion, we must say, when we say to people that we go somewhere, is we do not go to a place that's about religion. We go to a place that's about spirituality. You see, because what religion did is they tuned into the addictive emotional body of guilt, shame, and not okay, and built a movement around it to support a building versus spirituality that brings people together to support a movement, hopefully that is happening within themselves, but more importantly within each other. And that's a real defining difference as to what we are looking at. While I was in Maine, enjoying all the colors and the leaves changing, we have car tags change here, but in other parts of the country, they have leaves changing on trees. And I just felt like I was driving, in puzzle after puzzle. It was wonderful. But there was a marquee that said Adam and Eve were the first not to follow Apple instructions. And I really thought about that because, you get all these downloads, whether you have a Droid or you have an Apple. We get all these downloads all the time, or we go to an airport and we can't even get on Wi-Fi because we have to agree to all these terms and conditions. And I think I could bet on the fact that none of you ever read those things. You just accept it. So part of what we agreed in the first service that I'm inviting you to do is this week when one of those pop up, take the time to read it. You may be surprised what you're signing off to. Do. Anyway, but you think about that. And, and it's fun and it's cute and it's all that. But I invite you to look at how in 2019, in the 21st century, with all the information that we have, how many people accept something because somebody else said so. Right? Oh, I just accept it. Well, that's what Grandma saw. Well, that's what my therapist said. That's what my therapist said about, the success of having a relationship. Well, did you ask your therapist, do they have one? Oh, they don't have a relationship. Oh, good. Well, that's a great place to go to find out how to get one. We just accept a reality because it's like we're so quick to let me move on to the next thing, okay? And so it's like know what you are accepting and know why you are accepting it. One of my favorite quotes is from Victor Hugo. There is one thing stronger than all the armies of the world, and that's an idea whose time has come. And when we think about armies, we think about the obvious, the imagery. We think about the things that here in Unity, we hold a world that can do without that, as far as war as a means of coming to negotiations. But we think of that. But there are other armies that are happening all around us. It's an outdated educational system that still keeps children locked in. It would be some of our medical system. Hospitals were, it's okay to clap. We welcome that because I know you're clapping for an idea and that's fine. So in that space, the original root of why a hospital was built so people would get well. Right? And so and though intentions are good, it's us and our work to align with Christ's consciousness to get these things incongruent. That's why we're out in communities. That's why we're difference makers. That's why we need to speak out. We need to be out there being aware of that. And religiosity is one of those outdated systems, much so. And that's kind of what is happening now. And when you can understand what's happening now, instead of being reactive and being all dramatizing, that isn't helping. If you can just be aware that we're having a breakthrough, and anytime you're having a culture breakthrough, there's an ache and an ooh that's happening. I mean, it's a whole birthing process. And so that's part of the things that are going on now because we're merging forward. We have not lost sight nor intention of what we're claiming for the world in which we live in today. Are you with me? Yeah. So you don't ever help anybody by joining the discouragement club. You want to be the lighthouse. We don't help rocky boats by jumping in them. We are the lighthouse in which they can find their way. Is this interesting to you? Makes sense? So one of the stories that Emmett Fox gave is about a man that had been locked in a dungeon for 20 years. He had been in prison, and so he just decided after every day the only contact was bread and water that he was over it. He decided that he was going to make enough noise there at his door, cell door, and hopefully he hoped the guard would just kill him to get him out of his misery. And so he kind of sets the stage for this particular day, and he goes over to his cell door and he touches it. It's not even locked. It's not even locked. So he opens the door, kind of nonchalantly walks down the hall and sets himself free. Nobody ever really noticed. It wasn't stone and steel that had him locked in. It was his mind. It was his space within himself that had him locked in, and he was free all the time. And it's so important with the level that you're working with right now, be it divorce, be it new marriage, be it a relationship of any kind, be it your health, be it your well-being, with whatever you're going through, feeling lack in any financial way, or you have too many things happening financially and you need to add more people to keep up it. We're happy for all of you that are having that happen. But whatever that is, you know, it's looking at your consciousness and looking at that space of, is there any old debris trying to work its way back in there, you know? And so that's a factor. When one of my colleagues was graduating and becoming ordained with Unity, I sent her a letter. She's in Nebraska. And I said, one of the things I've learned for sure as a leader is don't ever operate with a box. Don't let people tell you we've done that already and it didn't work. Don't ever let people know that won't work. We don't have enough. Or, you know, what if so-and-so gets mad? I mean, if nobody's getting mad, you're not doing anything. You know, and I was just kind of walking through these ideas. Don't ever work with that kind of box. And I said, don't even have boxes in the hall. And certainly, you know, don't eat out of a box. It's not very nutritious. She got a good kick out of that. But that is something, you know, for all of us to work with. You know, in Native American, in one of the cultures, they don't even use the word or have a word for why. They don't spend time on the word why. And be mindful of that. How often in your life do you use the word why? Like, and why is this happening to me? Would be one of those. Or after all I'm doing and drinking my beet juice and, you know, doing my protein and going to the gym, you know, why do I have a headache? It's like my teacher used to say, you can spend hours trying to figure out why you have a headache. Just take some homeopathy or take some Tylenol and you'll be done with it. But we get too into the why instead of putting the energy and the intention into what are the results that we are really seeking. Make sense? And in that and what that would be. Bishop Pearson really invites us to look at what do we feel now as we have practiced these principles for so many years. What do we feel really about Jesus? How do we sit with that? Do we realize that Jesus was human, that discovered how to be a shaman and a healer, that went through trials and temptations and all that? Because, see, I find that very comforting. You know, because often when we make people superheroes, wherever, it may be celebrities, we forget that they're human, that they go through everyday life. And what we're doing is we're projecting out that we will never be there. And if you're ever projecting on behalf of Jesus that you'll never be there, you've missed the strongest part of, to me, what he had to say by how he lived. And he said, and I will paraphrase, great things have I been doing, but greater things shall you also do. And I think that my sense is we've spent enough time accepting what we feel about Jesus. It's time for us to take that statement to the whole next meaning, because that puts the attention on us, and it actually makes us claim some level of responsibility of what we're really here to do. So if you really honor someone or something, you become more like it. And that would be a joy in our world if people would pick that idea up. I mean, really, we're at that kind of place in that space. And it's like, I was talking with a friend of mine the other day. We were talking about time management. You know, you either have a grasp on it or it has you. And we were talking about that, you know, and he very lovingly said, yeah, but, I tell people, well, Jesus, was a healer and had, and look at him. It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible he was stressed or anything. And I said, you can't compare that. I mean, for somebody to go see Jesus, even for an appointment, often they'd have to walk 200 miles to see him. There wasn't Facebook, there wasn't Twitter, there wasn't email and, all of that. I mean, so yeah, I think you could be more apt to not be as stressed if you didn't have all those things coming at you. But the point more is about that it's our reality that we are part of Christ's consciousness in another time and in another space. And I don't think the key is not to be stressed. I think that's kind of a ridiculous kind of goal. I think it's more about being calm in the midst of stress. I think it's about owning your space in the midst of what's going on. I think it's about being present with people, no matter what you have going on. Because I haven't noticed anybody that I see here today, especially those that I know, that don't have at least a whole lot going on. And isn't that what we want? To live a full life. So it's clearing those kind of paradigms, you see. I like to explain God like a photocopy machine because it takes away, it impersonalizes a lot of the stuff that we have going on. And I liken it to if you have an image, you have words, you go to a photocopy machine, you ask it to produce, and what does it do? It produces as many times as you ask for, right? And you can go to that same photocopy machine on a different day, and you can take a whole different kind of conversation about yourself. I can't do it. I'm not going to be successful. It's not going to work out. And do you think the photocopy machine smokes and blows up and says, can't do it? No, it doesn't. What does it do? It still produces for you. So we want to be mindful of how we are working with this intentional law that is always working, because it's so crucial for the well-being of our lives. We have a slide that kind of says it all as far as our religion versus spirituality and how one would stay in a space. I mean, to be a mystic, as I said earlier, is about allowing the mystery of the universe to come through you, to be in a place of what you haven't seen yet. And that's the excitement in the infinite energy and love and life force of God, you see. The power, the energy, the essence. Be bold, be brave, stand up for it. Don't just feel proud about your principles when everything's going good and you're singing Kumbaya. Stand up for your principles when you're facing something significant in your life and say, here I go. A woman was telling me in the first service that she's been coming here 10 years, but when her family faced cancer, the C word, that's when she really said, whoa, this is how this stuff works. And they are now cancer-free. There are possibilities. There's an energetic presence. There's all that is possible to us. There's a woman that wanted to clean out her goldfish bowl, and so she took them out of the bowl and she put them into the tub, and she's thinking, oh, they're going to be so happy because they have all this space now to fish around, like a golden opportunity. Okay, there you go. So she goes, oh, how fun. And what happened? You might wonder, well, they went around still in their little circle in this whole big space. Yeah. So step all the way into a principle-based life. Let go of any of those circles. Claim that consciousness, that energetic presence that's for you. Shall you stand? I just felt like telling you to stand. And I just want you to hold that space, that there is a presence and a power right now working in your life. It has no condition, it has no memory, it has no clarification other than what you tell it as you are breathing it in. Take a breath. And you're breathing in a life force and an energetic presence that is so much greater than any experience you have ever had in your life. It is divine usefulness which brings forth this energy to be present with you and as you. And you can feel the energy, and as you tune in, you can actually feel your cells changing even as you're standing there. Your DNA, your divine, You're bringing it in your life force. And I hold that for you, that this day you are taller. This day you are more aware. This day you are more whole. This day your soul is shining. And that's the truth. And so it is. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you.